Tonight, the Manic Monday before Super Tuesday. 5 candidates in 7 states in a mad dash for votes, but each stopping long enough to talk to us about the latest developments and to answer a new primary question. Why do you think you're in the best position to fix an ailing economy? I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, the war over the web. Google and Microsoft battle to be the dominant force in internet searches. And the younger son also rises, the Super Bowl's first back-to-back brother act.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening, everyone. It's 9 months from today, the day America elects a new president. And what happens tomorrow will go a long way toward deciding who that president will be. It's the biggest primary election day this country has ever seen. Nearly half the states will be voting this Super Tuesday. More than 40% of the delegates who will be seated at the conventions will be chosen tomorrow. A new CBS News poll shows Barack Obama has pulled into a tie nationally with Hillary Clinton among Democratic primary voters, but she's still well ahead in the Super Tuesday states. Some new star power actor Robert De Niro joined the Obama campaign today. Meanwhile, Clinton attended a roundtable on health care and the economy. All the major candidates, Democrat and Republican, campaigned today in Super Tuesday states, and this is the only broadcast to talk one-on-one with all of them. First, the Democrats. Senator Obama, our new CBS poll shows you and Senator Clinton running neck and neck nationally. But when it comes to the Super Tuesday states, currently Senator Clinton is ahead of you by 18 points. Knowing that none of these polls has been omniscient, how concerned are you about that last figure?
Well, I have no doubt that Senator Clinton is the favorite going into Super Tuesday. I mean, keep in mind that it was only a couple of weeks ago where we were 30 points down in places like California and New Jersey, and so she's got a built-in advantage. We would expect her to do well. We think that we're going to get our share of delegates and our share of state victories. But you know what is important is to see how much progress we've made over the last couple of weeks. People have really stood up and said that they want real, meaningful change, especially when it comes to economic issues like the subprime lending mess, making sure that people can stay in their homes, making sure that we're doing something about these jobless numbers.
How critical is it for you to win the state of California, and if so, why?
Well, I don't think anybody anticipates us winning the state of California. I think that Senator Clinton, as I said, was up 30 just 2 weeks ago. I think we'll get our share of delegates. But I'm seeing enormous interest and energy. I think we're bringing a lot of new voters into the process, and that we'll see a split decision basically coming out of tomorrow, with both of us having won sizable numbers of delegates in states, and then I think we'll have to continue on.
Do you need to win California tomorrow? And if so, why?
Well, I'm working very hard to do well in California. We have a great campaign on the ground, an enormous amount of support. But, you know, I never count anything until it's all over. I don't believe that, you know, you can rest until the last vote is counted. And so I'm going to keep working, reaching out to the voters of California during the rest of today and tomorrow to try to get as big a turnout as possible.
Just 3 weeks ago, our CBS News poll showed you 15 points ahead of Barack Obama nationally. Now our latest poll shows the two of you dead even. What happened?
Well, you know, I don't pay a lot of attention to these. They go up, they go down. I think we've learned our lessons with New Hampshire and other contests, that the only polling that counts is what voters actually decide themselves. So I'm going to wait to see what voters across the country decide to do tomorrow. That's the best poll as far as I'm concerned.
Our poll also shows respondents evenly split about whether your husband, President Clinton, has been helpful or hurtful to your campaign. Was there a point in time, Senator Clinton, where you wanted to tell him, back off?
Well, it's my campaign, and I've made that very clear. I have a lot of great supporters who are out there making the case for me. But at the end of the day, there are only 2 names on the ballot. I expect to be judged for who I am and what I'm presenting, and that's what I think the voters expect.
Now to the Republicans. Our CBS News poll shows John McCain opening a big lead nationally among Republican primary voters, leading Mitt Romney by 23 points. Mike Huckabee is trailing. In New York today, In New York today, McCain picked up the endorsement of former Governor George Pataki. Romney, who campaigned in the South, meanwhile, added a last-minute visit tonight to California, encouraged by the latest polls there. And Huckabee accused Romney of voter suppression for suggesting a vote for Huckabee is a vote for McCain. I talked to all three Republicans today. First, John McCain. I asked him about former Senator Rick Santorum, a leading social conservative, and his comments questioning McCain's temperament. Let me first start by asking you, Senator McCain, about some news of the day, if you will. Senator Rick Santorum, who has endorsed Mitt Romney, has done a automated call for the Romney campaign, telling voters, quote, "As a conservative, I don't agree with McCain on many issues, and I don't think he has the temperament and leadership ability to move the country in the right direction." What do you think about Rick Santorum's use of the word temperament in this automated call?
Well, I'm just pleased and grateful that I have the support of so many senators who are still in the Senate, ranging from the most conservative Tom Coburn to Trent Lott to Richard Byrd, Lindsey Graham.
Rick Santorum said he had witnessed problems with your temperament, which he declined to detail, and he said, quote, "I don't know anybody in the Senate who hasn't. Everybody has their McCain story." What's your reaction to that?
Again, I don't know what a defeated candidate for re-election who begged me to come up and campaign for him has to say, but I know what my other colleagues, those who I've served with and those that I am serving with, so many of them who are supporting me more than anybody else.
As we approach Super Tuesday and people get one final opportunity to make their choice, what do you perceive as the biggest weakness of your opponents?
Inexperience and uneven performance. Governor Romney is governor of Massachusetts, raised taxes $730 million. He left the state saddled with a $245 million debt because of his big government mandate on health care.
What about Mike Huckabee? What do you think is his biggest weakness?
Mike Huckabee has been subjected to the millions of dollars of attack ads by Mitt Romney, who spent, we don't know, $50, $60 million of his own money attacking him and me. But I think he's a very good and decent man, and I admire him, and I admire his humor, and I think he's elevated the entire presidential debate and campaign.
When I talked to Mitt Romney today, I asked him if he shares Santorum's concerns about Senator McCain.
Senator McCain is a national hero, but he spent the last 25 years as a legislator. That's a very different experience.
But
and I
Governor
think my
Romney,
brand of executive leadership is quite different.
I'm asking you about temperament. Do you believe John McCain has the temperament to be President of the United States?
You know, I haven't worked with Senator McCain, and so I'm not going to comment about his temperament because it's not something I'm terribly familiar with. I believe that my experience and leadership training, judgment, wisdom, temperament, that package together would serve America well, and I'll let other people express their own views.
Do you think that Mike Huckabee is hurting your campaign by taking conservative voters away from you in some key contests?
Well, I think we take conservative voters away from each other, and I think people have to decide which of us is going to be the conservative standard bearer to run against John McCain in this primary season. So far, my record has shown that I can do real well, whether it's in Florida, Michigan, Nevada, up in Maine. I've been able to attract voters from all over the country, and I think that record shows that I'm somebody who can be a standard bearer in this race.
Mike Huckabee is a bit of a spoiler for you, though, isn't he, Governor, particularly in some key races in the South?
You know, I think everybody would like it if their competition got out of the race. That's the nature of it, but politics doesn't work that way.
As to the suggestion that Mike Huckabee is somehow siphoning conservative votes away from Mitt Romney, here's what Huckabee had to say about that.
It's, to me, arrogant and presumptuous for him to assume that the people who are voting for me would automatically go vote for him. I think he's wrong about that. I think people who vote for me know that they are voting for a person who's consistent on his views and not all over the board, and a person who knows what he believes. My enterprise has obviously been more efficient because for a fraction of the amount of money that you've spent, we have about the same market share. I think for that reason, anybody with a Harvard MBA ought to know that his business is having a hard time selling the soap.
What do you need to do tomorrow to keep your candidacy alive?
Well, we've got to be competitive in the South as well as some of these other states, and I think we will be. But I don't see any candidate coming out of tomorrow with 1,191 delegates, which is what's required to secure the nomination. So as long as there's still a game on, we plan to be in it. A lot of people counted the New York Giants out, and turned out that a lot of folks were getting their Boston celebrations ready just a little bit too early.
All the candidates will be back later in the broadcast to answer a primary question about the #1 concern of voters right now, the economy. But up next, high-tech titans in a tug of war that could help determine the future of the internet. President Bush did something today that's likely to set off a new battle with Democrats in Congress in his final year in office. He sent them a budget that would, for the first time, see federal spending top $3 trillion, an increase of 6%. Military spending next year would rise more than 7%, while spending on Medicare and Medicaid would go down. The president projects a deficit of $407 billion. For 2009. Now to another big money story, a battle involving some of the internet's biggest names. Google is trying to stop Microsoft from buying Yahoo, arguing that the deal could violate antitrust laws. As Anthony Mason reports, there's a lot riding on this one.
In the battle for our eyeballs on the internet, Google is the webmaster with 77% of the worldwide search market.
I use Google.
I do go to Google for searches. I never use Yahoo.
But now it's being challenged by another tech titan. Microsoft wants to buy the #2 search site Yahoo, and Google reportedly is trying to block them.
Google definitely would love to stop this deal.
Why? What is Microsoft after? Your search results will show you a $30 to $40 billion online advertising market that's expected to double in the next 5 years, because search engines are where the money is.
On the internet, search is everything. If you're searching, then you're giving me a little bit of an idea of what you're all about. Search is at the very core of the consciousness of a user.
Google has the clear advantage now, but analysts say it's not unbeatable.
Were they to stop innovating today, were Microsoft and Yahoo effectively to integrate their R&D departments, they could catch up to Google in a year and a half.
Meanwhile, Google's CEO reportedly has called Yahoo's chief executive, offering to help him fight off the Microsoft takeover. Congress is due to take a look at the deal later this week. Katie?
Well, Anthony, Google has become such a part of the lexicon. People use it as a verb every day.
Sure.
So how will it change the way folks search things on the internet?
If this deal goes through, in the short term, probably, Katie, it won't. But the real battle here is who's going to come up with the next big thing. That's what this is all about. Microsoft wants more brain power here. They're going to buy Yahoo. If they get the next big thing, we'll all see what it is.
All right. Anthony Mason. Anthony, thank you. Up in space, Beatlemania is spreading across the universe, or at least across the galaxy. Nothing's gonna change. It was 40 years ago today that the Beatles recorded the song Across the Universe. Tonight, NASA is transmitting that song digitally from a giant antenna in Spain to Polaris, the North Star, a mere 2.5 quadrillion miles away. The song won't reach its destination, though, for 431 years. Coming up next, this Super Tuesday Eve, a primary question for the candidates. What makes them think they can fix the economy?
Being a governor, I've steered the canoe through low water and high water.
During this presidential campaign, we've been talking one-on-one to the major candidates in a series we've called Primary Questions. In our CBS News poll, 38% of voters named jobs and the economy as their #1 concern. So today I asked the candidates what they would do about it. Why do you think you're in the best position to fix an ailing economy?
I've done business around the world in over 20 different countries. I've helped turn around businesses in trouble. I also, as you know, took over the Olympics when they were in trouble and helped get them back on track. In Massachusetts, our state was in a ditch, was going downhill fast, losing money every month and losing jobs every month. It was hard, but we were able, Republicans and Democrats, to work together to turn that around. We didn't raise taxes. We rebuilt our economy, and it continues to come out of the deep trough it was in. So I believe my record of actually turning things around is quite distinctly different from that of Senator McCain.
So you're suggesting Senator McCain has no record on the economic front?
Well, Senator McCain hasn't had responsibility for a city or a state or a business.
I've been involved in the major economic issues going back to the Reagan Revolution, when we cut taxes and restrained spending and put this country back on the path to prosperity. At the time he became president, we had 10% unemployment and 20% interest rates, and we cut taxes, but we restrained spending and the growth of government. And I've been involved in restraint of spending. I'm called the sheriff by some of the appropriators. And by the way, I'm not most popular with some of my colleagues in the Senate when I take on their pork barrel projects. I have the experience and knowledge on economic issues to lead this country based on fundamental conservative economic principles.
Being a governor, I've steered the canoe through low water and high water. I've taken a deficit and turned it into a surplus. I've led in the creation of jobs. I understand that if you really want to create jobs, you have to produce something, which means you've got to change the tax system so Americans are producing things and actually making things again. That is an important part of having a strong, healthy economy and building the middle class.
Why do you think you're best qualified of all the candidates to handle a struggling economy?
I've spent 20 years, Katie, trying to make sure that our economy is prospering from the bottom up and not just the top down. And so my economic program that includes tax cuts for the middle class, $1,000 per family to offset the payroll tax, relief for seniors who don't make a lot of money so they don't have to pay income tax, providing additional tax breaks for homeowners on their interest rates. All those things are designed to strengthen the purchasing power of the middle class, strengthen the economy. I think that's the package that will move us forward in the right direction.
Well, I've been talking about what we need to do with the economy now for my entire campaign. I would still like to see us have a moratorium on home foreclosures. Let's help people stay in their homes. We need to freeze these interest rates. Otherwise, we're going to lose millions of more people out of their homes. And I think it's very important that we start generating new jobs. You know, the lessons I learned from the first Clinton administration about how to be a good steward of the economy, I will bring with me into the White House as we look toward the future so we get this economy working for everybody again.
If you'd like to see more of my interviews with the candidates, you can go to cbsnews.com and click on CBS Evening News, where you'll find our complete primary questions video library. And that's the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'll be anchoring 2 hours of primetime Super Tuesday coverage tomorrow night, along with Bob Schieffer, Scott Pelley, and Jeff Greenfield. I'm Katie Couric. Thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.